It was the international workers' movement, and it's got nothing to do with politics. His idea was for the ordinary person not to do anything, not to go to war, just stay at home and they wouldn't have the war they wanted. I personally believe that if non-violence is adopted and people become more awake to what's happening, then these people very, very quickly lose the power that they've got. They feed on power. They feed on fear. So if you take these elements away from them, they become powerless. They need us to do what they're doing. They can't do it on their own, even though they'll be damn dangerous in any event, but they can't do it all on their own. And that would be my message, is just to wake up a bit, see what's happening about us, put our heads above the parapet, and without fearing to do that, without feeling afraid, take a deep breath, have a look around, see what's happening, and then people will soon realize, oh yeah. Okay. This is where we're gonna go. This is where we're heading, and there's not much I can do about it. But they can. As I've said, it's not to react violently. And if people are in positions where these people need them, just don't work for them. Just stop working for them. Take your labor away, because they need the troops who are going to do this work. We're not just talking about people in the military. We're talking about every civilian member in all the populations right across the globe. Just say, no, because this is not us. This is not what we want to do. And it's making that choice. It sounds ridiculously simple. I think the execution of it is that simple, and it's well within our power as human beings, conscious living, breathing, human beings who have a shared compassion for one another, to do that. Because if we don't, they'll carry on, and then they'll realize their end game. B. Do you think, from your own military experience, that there are enough people in the military who are saying, you know what? I didn't sign up for this. I'm not going to do this. Or do you think that they'll buy into all the justifications that are being set up at the moment? Well, by and large the Western military is not a conscripted army. It's a professional army, and it prides itself on its professionalism. It prides itself on acting on behalf of the people who elected the government who sent them out to do the job that they're doing. It's a very difficult question to answer. And of course, these troops are superbly trained, and they wholly believe, as I did when I was in the military, that you're doing the job for all the right reasons. If it became clear to people who are in such professions, this is not just the military. We're talking about the emergency services, the police, all those who've made their way into the security industry. We're talking about all these people. If enough voices were heard, then those in the military who have not achieved any significant rank, who have no particular stake in the game, will then wake up themselves just as soon as anybody else. But it's got to be borne in mind that the Western powers have professional military services, and it's a difficult thing to do to make it clear and let these guys and girls know that they're not fighting the right people. B. Sure. Let me ask a different question. Was there reference to safer places to be? Physically, I mean. No. None at all. B. Nothing like the Southern Hemisphere is okay, the Northern Hemisphere is going to be a problem. Nothing like that? No, not at that meeting. That wasn't mentioned at all. B. Okay. Another question I'd like to ask you, and it's a fascinating one to debate among people who are tuned into this whole area, is a personal one. Why do you feel that the benevolent ets, and I'm sure that they exist, why do you think that they don't step in to say, okay, guys, normally we're hands off, but this is getting serious here and we are not going to allow this to happen? Is that possible? Why do they maintain such a distance? Well, first things first. These benevolent ets, I don't actually like calling them ets. I believe that these people are us and we are them. B. Yes. They've been around for a lot longer than the regime that's in power at the moment. This present regime, this power-based regime, some have called them reptilians, and I've got no problem at all calling them that, because that's exactly what they're like, totally cold-hearted. They've been around much, much longer, and they're the ones who have really made humanity what it is today. Interventions? I believe they've been intervening in the best ways that they can. But we are talking about very spiritually evolved beings, as the human race is very spiritually evolved. Maybe that's why we come back here so often, back to this planet. But for these people who are us and we are them, as I mentioned, they don't see time the same way that we understand time here within the physical world. For them, 11,500 years ago was a blink of an eye. It was nothing, and they already know what the end game is going to be. They believe, as I believe, that this regime that's in power at the moment who wish this total dominance over the earth and everything that's in it, are not going to win. They're having their time now and their time is about to end. B. On what basis do you feel that? This is very important for people reading this transcript because some people will be feeling numbed and shocked at the information that you have presented, thinking, oh God, we're really stitched up here. W. Yes, I think if you take it from the purely physical point of view, it doesn't mean that we've all got suicidal minds or something like that. We all want our lives. We all cherish our lives. Everybody does. We love our lives and we want to experience them fully in all ways, in the best way we possibly can. We're currently being prevented from doing so because of this regime, which is based in fear. It's all about fear. And the greatest fear that we have got physically is fear of death, and that's part of the greatest power that they've got over us, is this type of fear, this anxiety that they can raise or lower, which they're doing all the time. I can't think of a moment when this hasn't happened, when this fear doesn't come out and then we react to it the way that we do. It seems perfectly natural. But what happens when we don't stop feeling this and say, well, it's only fear? We can get over this, then that's stepping into who we really are. I don't yet believe there are enough people around at the moment who know who they are. They define themselves by their own physical existence, which is all fear-based, and it's cyclical, and they just can't get out of it. And obviously they need to find their way out of it. I believe, personally, that come this shift, I call it a shift because that's what I believe is going to happen. The Earth's crust is going to shift round about 30 degrees, about 1,700 to 2,000 miles southwards, and it will cause a huge upheaval, effects of which will last for a very long time to come. But the human race isn't going to die off. We're still going to be here. It's who we are at the end of that is where my mind is. And as for this regime, that's where their mind is. This is why they're doing what they're doing, because they want to be in control at the end of it. Now, if we're talking about intervention, this is when there will be an intervention by the benevolent debts. The people who are really us, this is when it may happen, but I don't know. I've got a strong intuitive feeling it will, but at the moment the situation that we have right now is not conducive for the type of intervention. Not right now. They don't feel it's the right time. And in any event, physical life is only a very, very small part of who we really are, so how much importance do you place on that, knowing that when you walk from this door into the next door, you're back home anyway? So all that's got to be taken into consideration, and I'm sure there's people out there who could articulate this far better than I'm articulating this right now. I can only articulate this from a very personal point of view, and that's what I feel intuitively might happen. And I say might, knowing full well that I can be certain within my own self that that sort of thing will happen, and it's just the pain that we have to go through of reaching that point where this regime will no longer have the power that they've got. People, waking up, finding out what's going on around them and really having a good look, and raising their conscious levels as they've never done before, and then everything will click into place quite quickly. And when it does, the power that these people have will just fall off them like a towel, just fall right off them, and they'll be exposed for what they are. B. That's a very inspiring thought. Do you feel personally that, let me specify a number of alternatives, that the whole war might not happen at all? That the whole thing will just fall apart? Or that all of this will fall apart after the war but before the cataclysm? Or that all of this will fall apart after the cataclysm and that the meek will inherit the earth, let's say? W. Yes. This is an extremely good question. Let's consider two things. The first thing is the sheer determination on the part of this regime, for want of a better word, the sheer determination that they have to have this done. They're desperate. They're going full out for this to happen. They're creating the scenarios, the in, the out. It's relentless. It's non-stop. There's no breathing space. And when there is breathing space, I mean,